week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. The short story arc continues, and this week's episode is wholly devoted to everyone's favorite pervert and closet pervert, Jiraiya and Kakashi. Now, this episode right here, I don't think was nearly as good as the previous ones, for one key reasons. I'm starting to see some cracks in the glass. I'm starting to see some lazy animation and the reuse of backgrounds and frames. I noticed that while watching this episode. It wasn't as prevalent in the last couple of them, but this one right here just seems like it's picking and pulling from some of the previous episodes a bit too much. Not to mention, the overall stories about Jiraiya and Kakashi, at the end of the day, really aren't all that interesting, especially Jiraiya's story. I'll admit, it's really fun to see his character again. He's really goofy and over the top, and you get to see a couple different versions of Jiraiya in this episode, and his story basically is just Jiraiya trying to use Orochimaru to sneak up on women, look at them in the hot springs, try to hit on Tsunade, and for some odd reason it all ends with them fighting against some Miss Ninja, in a scene which looks like it was actually about to pick up into something really awesome, especially watching Tsunade just completely deck these guys in the face, which probably had some of the best animation from this episode. I'm willing to forgive this entire episode for that almost, if it wasn't for the fact that the second episode repeated way too many backgrounds from the previous episodes of the series. Let me just sort of try to paint this image for you guys. In Naruto Shippuden episode 480, there was a scene where a young version of Naruto was walking through the streets of Konoha, and there were these two women who were having a conversation, and they noticed Naruto, and they looked really upset, because of course they know he has the nine-tailed fox inside of him, or that he's some kind of monster. That scene was fine. It was okay. It did a great job of demonstrating Naruto's loneliness. The problem is, in this episode, we have an exact parallel of that scene of Kakashi walking down the same street, same background, and the same two women are standing there, and they look exactly the same. You know what this is like? This is like that scene in Austin Powers' Goldmember, where Austin is about to be knighted, and he wants his dad to be there, and everybody starts laughing at him, and you see the janitor in the back, and later on, they repeat the same scene, and the janitor is there again, but he's the same exact age. It doesn't make any sense, and to make matters worse, it's not the only background that they repeat. There is another scene of the Mount Ninjamore with the shadows going over it. Same thing. There's another scene of the Konoha streets at night with Kakashi walking through. Same exact thing that Naruto, Choji, and Shikamaru did in the previous episode. Really, maybe they're just trying to save on the budget here. Maybe they just don't know what to do with the backgrounds of Konoha. I think it's actually a pretty diverse-looking city, and they could probably create some really interesting backdrops. But when they reuse them so much in such a short span, when you see them next to other episodes, it can be a little jarring. I'm a guy who always looks for the details, and I saw it all in this episode right here. And like I said, this episode really didn't expand too much on the characters. You already know that Jiraiya is a pervert. You already know that Kakashi is completely lonely as a child. I will admit, it is kind of nice to see Kakashi interacting with a much younger version of Obito and Rin, and getting to see what his life is like without his father being there. Him actually being a pretty accomplished chef is also kind of surprising. A French chef at that. If there's one thing this episode has going for it, if the backgrounds are repeated, at least they look super detailed. That being said, it really doesn't add that much to the mythos of Naruto. This is another one of those cases where if you skip this episode entirely, you're not really going to miss anything. This is an episode that was made for the hardcore Naruto fans who just want a little bit more expansion on the world and to get to see some of their favorite characters again. Although, at the end of the day, I feel that it really didn't do them justice. However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that might actually be appearing in next week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? I think I already said it clearly enough in the first part of the review. Watch this one, skip it. It's really up to you as a Naruto fan. Like I said, if you just want more, and you're just feeling gluttonous, and you just need more Naruto Shippuden anime, check it out. You might get a few chuckles from the Jiraiya scenes, and you might even get some feels from the Kakashi scenes. But basically, it's just more of the same. The best thing about this episode was getting to see the preview from the next one, where we're actually going to go into uncharted territory. Stuff that the manga hasn't even touched. We're actually going to be going into a time skip. We're going to see what happens when Sasuke goes on his grand journey to change himself into a better person, to help out the people that he runs into, to grow and mature. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that story. It looks like it's going to have some pretty decent animation. There's going to be new characters who are going to be introduced. Hell, we might even see some new techniques. And this will be a great time to finally spend time with Sasuke and getting to see him not be such an asshole and just so selfish about his motivations. This is going to be a breath of fresh air, and I'm really excited for that. That being said, this episode right here really wasn't all that great, and to me, it was just painfully average, but all of the repeated backgrounds and the repeated scenes and seeing those two old women multiple times just really put this, bad taste in my mouth. I really can't explain it. So for most people, I think this is just going to be kind of an average, boring episode. For me, this was just barely passable. I'm going to give this one right here a 2 out of 5. Not the greatest episode in the world by any stretch of the means, and you can completely skip it. And that's all I have to say about that. So, 2 out of 5 from me. You heard my thoughts about this week's episode. But before you guys leave, make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. This was not the episode for me. It's simply just my opinion. But if you did like this episode, please tell me why in the comments section below and what you hope to see from this brand new arc which is coming up. I think that is something that all Naruto fans can get excited for and get behind. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to leave me a like and a comment or two. I would really appreciate it. I will see you next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby. Naruto Shippuden is an anime series. It's not the fucking Flintstones where you have to repeat the same freaking backgrounds constantly. It's just awkward. We are past the point of Speed Racer. Naruto Shippuden, I expect more out of you from the future.